what does art matter to you in this current situation where we've found ourselves in?
As I've just said, what I've found in this last few weeks of lockdown is that despite tidying up those odd jobs around the place that have been left ignored by the practice of art, inevitably you find yourself wanting to placate the needs of the head, the heart, and that really means you've got to get back inside the studio and make some art.
Which international contemporary artists are you currently following, Roy?
I don't particularly follow anyone. I have some interest in recent artists, like, say, the stature of Anish Kapoor, who I found is absolutely in the same tradition of seeking another level of feeling outside of reality. And but really, I follow my heroes from the parts of modernism that I really believe in. And, you know, a whole lot of great artists from the early 20th century have embedded themselves in my brain. And I feel at times it's a little bit like an umbrella that forms over me as I work. People like Albers and Mondrian and Rietveld, the architect, and others of that that early modernist phase, they're there like ghosts, sitting on my shoulder, just checking that I keep on track, keeping in the right direction. That sounds a bit quaint, but that's how I feel about it. Especially with the likes of Albers, who's probably one of my real favourites, and, you know, a giant in contemporary art. I think most people underestimate his contribution. Bill, the Swiss, is another hero of mine, and he, in the sense that he also worked across disciplines, and that's what I've found in my practice, that the Bauhaus school in Germany did come up with, I think, the most earth-shaking concept of art and design and architecture and craft, having no boundaries. It's all one process going across all those disciplines, and there doesn't seem or need to be any separation. In fact, when you think about it, in the 19th century and early 20th century, the conceit that fine art was somehow a step above the applied arts was something that emerged and has been promoted ever since. And it's something that really ignores the history and the fact that the great artists did apply themselves right across all the crafts, all the disciplines, you know, going right back.
Very much so. And Annie Albers with textiles, obviously.
Yes.
There's a big resurgence recently with glass, you know, as I said, textiles, pottery. It's definitely having its day at present. When you're painting for an exhibition, how many hours would you spend in the studio per day?
As you know, I've made a little bit of a habit of using shaped formats. And people have asked me, do you make your own stretchers? And I say, well, yes, because it's probably cheaper for me to do that, and I don't want to give the problem to others. Some of them are quite complicated. So I've just got in the habit of that, making my own stretchers. So a lot of time goes into creating the support, probably a little bit more than the actual painting process itself. That's a sort of finishing off process, although that does take time. But I would say I'd average for a work 2 to 3 days. A big work, perhaps a bit more.
I was lucky enough in the late 90s to exhibit alongside Jeff Thornley at Vivissa Godkin, and I was always amazed at the time and the precision that he put into making his own cedar stretcher frames or stretcher straighteners, and stretching the linen himself. And he always used to tell me that he would wait for the driest day of the year to stretch the linen, which I found fascinating, you know, so he could get it drum tight. Because of course, Belgian linen absorbs the moisture and, you know, becomes slack.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
but I'll never forget that. And I mean, your work.
Just butt in there a
that
minute,
process.
because I have a comment on that statement. That approach of Jeff's, and he was a superb craftsman, came in out of a discussion he had with me, because we were neighbours back in the days, and he doesn't live in the Waitakaris anymore, but we were both in bush situations with our homes, and one of the big battles, of course, is moisture.
Yes.
And we used to talk about the problem of stretching canvas or linen, and that's what we mutually agreed to come up with. You know, you've got to wait for that really dry day. In fact, I'm the same. I'll wait for a sunny day and actually put the canvas outside on the deck to heat it up.
That's right.
Before I stretch.
Just going back to your process in the studio, when you're making work, are you making it in silence or do you listen to music?
It's a combination, although in more recent years I've become a bit hooked on talkback radio, which is probably not the best idea, but you know, you got to have something going on, because you can separate the two. You're in the moment with the making process, and it doesn't really need any you know, ongoing intellectual focus, because you're just going through the motions of interpreting the design or the concept into the larger scale. In fact, I've turned off the radio in recent days because I think we've just been oversaturated with this lockdown problem and all the facts and figures that come out with that. In fact, I understand the people looking after people's heads and mental stability are worried also that you know people aren't sleeping well because of this.
That's right, Roy. That's right. Well, Roy, let's leave it right there. I want to thank you very much for your time and your energy. That was incredibly informative and really insightful into your art practice. And we're looking forward to having your solo exhibition of new work that hasn't been shown previously at Northart. Stay tuned as far as the exact dates of Roy's opening exhibition. And we all hope to see you at Northart soon. Thank you, Roy.
Thanks, Jonathan.